Chapter 2 Mystery in the Garden. What you got, Ranger? What did you find, boy? Luke called from the porch swing where he and Sadie were finishing their pizza slices for lunch. So now we're with another family. We're with Luke and Sadie. Ranger was too busy digging in the garden to look up. Ranger loved to dig. He loved the damp smell of earth. He loved the showers of dirt and rock that flew from under his paws and pattered on the ground behind him. He loved finding things, especially bones. There was something hard buried here. Ranger wasn't sure if it was a bone. He lowered his head to sniff the thing. Not a bone. Metal. It smelled old. He sniffed again and caught another scent on the wind. Squirrel! Ranger whipped his head around. There, by the picnic table. Ranger took off running, and so did the squirrel. It was fast, but Ranger was bigger, and he was catching up. Ranger loved chasing squirrels. He'd never caught one. He wasn't sure what he would do if he did, but they were such fun to chase with their twitchy, fluffy tails. He chased it twice around the picnic table, over a bench, around the bird bath. So there's Sadie and Luke on the bench, and then there's the ranger dog chasing the squirrel. So we're at a different family now. Don't forget that. As Ranger was getting close, the squirrel raced up an oak tree. It perched on a way up branch and chattered down at him. Sadie laughed. Another one got away. Poor Ranger. You still can't resist those squirrels, can you? Luke came over and scratched Ranger's ear. You would have been such a good search and rescue dog. Ranger thought so too. He pushed his head into Luke's fingers. Squirrels were the reason Ranger couldn't be a search and rescue dog. Ranger had done all the training with Luke and Dad. They went to a special school with other dogs, German Shepherds and Labradors, and other golden retrievers like Ranger. There they learned to rescue people in trouble. When Luke ran into the woods and hid, Ranger could always find him. He knew to stay there and bark until Dad came. That's what you did with lost people. You had to stay with them and signal an alert to bring help. Ranger had practiced finding Luke in all different situations. He'd practiced finding other people too. He could sniff a person's shirt or hat and then follow the smell of that person in the air to wherever the person had gone. Ranger was excellent at sniffing and finding. But to be a search and rescue dog, you had to ignore squirrels, even when they raced right past you, flicking their fluffy tails. You weren't allowed to take off and chase them. You had to pretend that squirrels weren't even there. But they were, so Ranger chased them every time. He couldn't resist. Why was that a problem? It was only practice after all. Ranger would never go chasing after a squirrel if a real life person needed help. But the man who worked with Luke and Dad couldn't seem to understand. I'm sorry, he told them. I just can't pass them. Luke had looked sad about that. It made Ranger sad for a moment, too. But then a squirrel had come flying across the lawn, and Ranger chased it all around in circles. That made him feel much better. The squirrel had gotten away just like this one in the yard. It was way up in the tree now. Sadie and Luke went inside to take care of their pizza plates, so Ranger went back to the garden to dig. Soon he had the metal thing uncovered. So he fell out of search and rescue teams with the dogs because he couldn't focus. Every time he saw a squirrel, he had to chase it. So they didn't let him be a search and rescue dog, but it means he's really good at finding people. Think about how that might affect our story. In another chapter, somebody we remember was missing. Soon he had the metal thing uncovered. It was a box with a strap made from some kind of animal hide. Ranger clamped his teeth onto the leather and tugged the box from the hole. It had symbols like the ones Ranger had seen on a small white box in a cabinet inside the house. First aid. Ranger sniffed the box. It didn't smell like there were bones inside. He would have to dig some more and keep looking. But as Ranger turned back toward the garden, he heard a high-pitched humming sound. Not a good sound. His ears twitched. It was coming from the box. He sniffed the metal. Vibrations tickled his nose. What was in there? If Ranger took the box to Luke, he could open it and they could find out. The box was too big for Ranger to hold in his mouth, so he poked his nose under the leather strap and nuzzled it over his head. When he lifted the box from the dirt, the humming got louder. So this is how it looks. See, he stuck his head over it and carried it around his neck. And now the box is humming even louder. The box felt warm at Ranger's throat. Bright lights spilled from cracks in the old metal and seemed to swallow up the whole yard. Ranger's skin prickled under his fur. The light coming from the box grew brighter and brighter. The metal rattled and shook. Ranger whimpered. He flopped down in the grass and tried to paw the box away, but all he could see was white, hot light. Too bright. So he's trying to get the box off his neck, but all this bright light's coming out of it. The light spread and grew. There was a blinding flash, and Ranger felt as if he were being squeezed through a hole in the sky. He closed his eyes until the humming stopped and the hot metal cooled. When he opened them, he found himself on a dusty road crowded with people. They weren't dressed like Ranger's family. The men and boys wore long pants and button-up shirts. The girls had skirts and aprons like the kind Sadie wore when she played dress-up. Ranger sniffed the air. This was not his backyard. He smelled campfires and horses and chickens. He smelled coffee and hot grease and bacon. But above all, he smelled men, crowds of them hurrying and carrying and loading. They smelled of dust and smoke and sweat. Ranger pricked up his ears. This wasn't Luke's neighborhood. There was no shouting playground voices, no zooming cars. Instead, hooves clopped and thumped the unpaved streets. Animals whinnied and neighed and snorted. Men shouted at one another across the busy square. Get up, Fergus! Ha! Hurry now! Deal of a lifetime on 2 yoke of oxen. Then Ranger heard a woman's voice, shrill and full of fear. He didn't know who she was, but he understood her frantic words. Find her! Find her now! And that's the end of that chapter. So he's gone back in time, back to the time of Sam loading the bacon and missing Amelia. So what do we think that first aid kit does? Fun story. So let's see what happens. There's Grogu poking over my shoulder. He's listening too. And all the dinosaurs up there and Johnny Cash. All right, come back for chapter 3, Trouble in the Town Square.